It's Thursday, August 6th, and this is now on HNN.
The health department is reporting more deaths related to COVID-19.
As cases surge on Oahu, the neighbor island mayors are asking the governor to reinstate the inter-island travel quarantine.
I think the time has risen.
Across the nation, COVID-19 deaths are on the rise. I'm Chris Martinez with what nurses say they need to save more lives.
We want more protection for us workers.
This as more government leaders are calling for the state to ramp up contact tracing.
Begs the question about whether or not the Department of Health is doing enough.
These stories, plus what's being done to cut down on the time you spend stuck at those red lights. Coming up on This Is Now. Good afternoon. We want to start today by letting you know we're expecting some big news from the governor today. He's going to have a press conference at 2:30. We're going to bring that to you live on HNN Digital and all our TV platforms as well. But now let's get to those new numbers from the Department of Health. Some delays, right, Ash?
That's right. So DOH says today's case count will be delayed because of lab reporting issues, but health officials say 2 more patients with the coronavirus have died, bringing Hawaii's death toll to 29. One of the fatalities is an elderly Oahu woman who had underlying health conditions. Officials say she was a resident at a Pearl City nursing home, but was then hospitalized. The other fatality is an elderly Oahu man who also had underlying health issues and was hospitalized. State epidemiologist Dr. Sarah Park said a close contact of the man attended a spin class at a gym taught by a person linked to the Hawaiian Airlines cluster. Meanwhile, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard joined us on Sunrise this morning to discuss her call to ramp up contact tracing in Hawaii.
You know, just starting out, you have called this a, quote, half-hearted deployment of too few trained contact tracers. I want to ask you why you think that, and what do you think should be done at this point?
Obviously, seeing the level of infections of coronavirus in Hawaii continuing to shoot through the roof on a day-to-day basis begs the question about whether or not the Department of Health is doing enough in deploying these contact tracers. And when you look at the national standard for how many contact tracers we should have given our population and our rate of infection right now, we should have at least 560 contact tracers working full time to make sure that they are tracing and isolating every one of these infections to stop these outbreaks from continuing. And yet the Department of Health has barely 19% of that, about 100 contact tracers at work. We have funded them with federal funding to be able to fully deploy these. We have known that this works. There is no excuse that we don't have a fully staffed, fully deployed contact tracing team here in Hawaii.
Do you believe that the Department of Health here in Hawaii is failing us in its attempt?
In this respect, I do. There's no question about it. We've gotten mixed messages. One day, the Department of Health says, you know what, we've got enough contact tracers. The next day, Governor Ige says we don't have enough contact tracers. Then we get a different message the next day. Let's look to this national standard that is being put forward. Again, that mixes our population with the increasing rate of infection that we have. That takes us to at least 560 fully trained contact tracers. I'm getting calls from people who are saying either I'm trained or I want to get trained, I want to volunteer, I want to help. We don't know where to call or what to do. Department of Health has over 400 trained with over 300 just standing by saying, hey, put me in. I want to help with this. But for some reason, I don't know why we've not been able to get an answer on this, why they are not following this national standard and utilizing the already trained, hundreds of already trained people we have here in Hawaii right now.
You know, there's a lot of pressure right now, even from the president, to really start back schools, get kids back into the classroom. Hawaii students are supposed to go back August 17th. And looking at the numbers now, do you think they should go back into the classroom?
I have grave concerns about it, mostly because we haven't seen clearly what the precautions will be. The number one thing is public health. And before they talk about reopening schools, teachers, parents, faculty, they need to have a high level of confidence that Their classrooms are not going to become a petri dish for the further spread of coronavirus.
Neighbor Island mayors want Governor Ige to reinstate the inter-island travel quarantine immediately. Maui County Mayor Mike Victorino sent a joint letter to the governor requesting the mandate and other restrictions be put back into place. Victorino says he, Big Island Mayor Harry Kim, and Kauai Mayor Derek Kawakami are concerned about the surge in cases, mostly on Oahu, and they say they are worried their island's healthcare capacity may become overwhelmed. Victorino also doesn't think that Hawaii's public schools should be reopening in a week and a half.
The public school was scheduled to start August 17th, which is week after next. And with this outbreak in Oahu and the large numbers, I think there is a strong consideration of maybe even pushing that back further, or opening up just to virtual or distant learning. I agree with the public sentiment that we should not open until we are totally ready to reopen our schools, our public schools.
There's been no indication so far that the school year will be postponed again. We'll see what the governor does with the mayor's request.
The Trump administration is telling state leaders that the federal government will no longer foot the bill for use of the National Guard. Hawaii lawmakers say that would cost the state up to $17 million. There are exceptions for 6 other states, including Florida and Texas. The Hawaii Department of Defense is set to divert some CARES funds to pay for the Guard's continued deployment, but there are no general funds available.
Now that this is involved, people can exit the jet bridge without stopping and continue on. So it's a more efficient manner of deplaning and exiting the plane.
Thermal screening cameras above the jet doors will now send real-time information to the National Guard personnel. Any temperature above 100.4 degrees will immediately be flagged so that traveler can be pulled aside for additional screening. The system is being installed at major airports across the state at a cost of $27 million, plus another $1.4 million a year for maintenance for 10 years. Oahu is seeing the majority of the state's new cases daily. Dr. Jill Amori is the city's infectious disease officer. We talked to her this morning on Sunrise about her biggest concerns and the city's response.
It is really concerning, and I think that I really worry about our capacity because I think that people tend to compare us to the mainland and think that maybe we're not so bad because our numbers are not in the thousands, but we're a really small state and we have much more limited resources than a lot of the other places. And so, even this amount of numbers is really concerning.
Nationally, COVID-19 related deaths are up 24%, while the U.S. has seen a 9% decrease in cases. Chris Martinez has more.
Dr. Anthony Fauci says he's cautiously optimistic as the U.S. battles the coronavirus.
I do have an abiding faith in the American spirit.
Even as COVID-19 cases are surging in some parts of the country, the nation's top infectious disease doctor believes there is a clear way forward if Americans wear masks and follow social distancing guidelines.
That is the way out of this. We can continue to go towards normality without doing the drastic things of shutting down if we follow some fundamental principles.
Here in California and across the nation, nurses are holding a national day of action, demanding elected leaders and hospital employers take action to save lives.
We want more protection for us workers, and we want more PPE, safer PPE.
There's also growing concern about a spike in coronavirus cases in nursing homes. Florida has set up 23 COVID-19 isolation centers at long-term care facilities to house and treat patients. 4 are dedicated to only COVID patients, while in the other 19, patients are secluded. Danielle Cohen's 98-year-old grandfather lives at one of the facilities.
This is reckless. It is potentially lethal.
I certainly understand the concern that any family member would have, but I am equally committed to ensuring the safety of our residents in these facilities.
Nationwide, more than 40,000 nursing home residents have died from coronavirus. Chris Martinez, CBS News, Los Angeles.
With fall classes yet to begin at public schools across the state, most high school sports are being put off until next year. The Hawaii High School Athletic Association voted on postponement yesterday. Football, cheerleading, cross country, and girls volleyball won't start until at least January. The only ones still happening this fall are bowling and air riflery, which are both deemed low risk. Chris Chun, the executive director of the association, talked with us this morning on Sunrise about all of this.
Chris, good morning. First of all, let's start with this. Why was the call made? And I know a lot of people were saying, okay, football, we understand. What about the other sports? Why were they included in this?
Okay, good morning. Well, basically, we didn't do it in regards to a specific sport. We did it in regards to how our sports are categorized. And so moving the high risk and the moderate risk sports to a later date, basically that the way our state is in the virus pandemic level right now, that we wouldn't be able to play any high risk or moderate risk sports. So that's why the decision was made to postpone them for a while.
Okay, you're looking at October, where you will revisit this, reevaluate, and look, I guess, at the numbers. What are the specific factors that you will look at that point to determine whether or not we can resume sports in January?
So basically, we've been meeting with the Department of Health every 2 weeks, and when we met with them, we were asking them like, oh, what's the climate we're in? And at that point, some points we were in 0 to 5 cases a day. What could we play? And the 3 doctors that were meeting with us were telling us, well, you can basically play this level of sports right now. And it got to the point where we're at now that they're saying that possibly only low risk sports could proceed. And the reason why we set this October date is because that's the end of the first quarter. So by that point, the public schools will have been able to see how in-person learning has been going, any problems that they have, and they'll be able to see like, well, okay, this part of sports can go, kids can maybe miss class time to get out of school early to go play sports. So by that point, everyone will have a clearer picture of where we are at in dealing with this virus and schools.
New technology is aiming to cut down the time you spend stuck at red lights. Lacey Denise has more. The $4.5 million connected vehicle system is a first of its kind in the nation. It syncs with the technology in traffic signals to analyze traffic throughout the day. It can sense changes in traffic flow and can even turn red lights green if it detects traffic is backing up in the area. Before this, the Department of Transportation would have to adjust the lights manually. Currently, traffic signals only have 3 settings for rush hours and regular drive times. Transportation officials say the new tool will help structure future plans and can even give them recommendations on what the signal timing should be through the corridor. So far, it's been set up along Ala Moana Boulevard and Nimitz Highway. UH will be studying the results to see if the project works. For This Is Now, I'm Lacey Denise.
Local biz news now. Matson is sailing in the black even in the rough seas of the pandemic. Howard Dykes reports.
For the spring, Matson made a $33 million profit on $524 million revenue. Revenue fell, but profit rose. Matson credits 68% greater shipping volume from China to California. Its China Express charges a premium for faster transport than the much bigger ships from Hong Kong offer. Matson also carried cargo for rival Pasha, while Pasha had a ship in dry dock. Hawaiian Electric posts a $49 million profit for the COVID spring. Revenue fell, but so did costs, and the end result was actually better than last year. Cincinnati Bell posts a $10 million loss. It's the owner of Hawaiian Telcom. L&L opens its 205th location in Nanakuli. The owners, 2 brothers from China who already have an L&L in Eva, say it's the first L&L, this is the one in Nanakuli now, the first with a full-scale roaster, and so its menu includes duck. Later this month, a new L&L opens on the Big Island in Pahoa. And realtors closed on 220 Big Island house sales in July, plus 54 condos, both down from last year. House median price fell to $357. Kauai had 37 house closings and 26 condos, house median jumping over 800 as sales slumped in more affordable districts.
Ceremonies were held in Hiroshima, Japan today, marking the 75th anniversary of the world's first atomic bomb attack. Ray Inocencio spoke with one of the survivors who's made it his mission to rid the world of nuclear weapons.
The mushroom cloud rose menacingly over Hiroshima 75 years ago today, an event seared into world history, and more so in the mind of Toshiko Tanaka. She was right under that cloud, just 6 years old, and miraculously survived.
I remember the horror of that day, blinding light like thousands of strobe lights, my body thrown to the ground.
At 81, she says she's been blessed to live. Her mission now, banning all nuclear weapons.
75 years after surviving the bombing, I'm all the more determined to help rid the world of nuclear arms.
What became Hiroshima's ground zero was once its humming commercial district of Nakajima, with city hall, restaurants, and cafes. Tanaka, pictured here with her father, lived close by. But on August 6, 1945, the Enola Gay Superfortress bomber dropped its payload on the city, a 5-ton nuclear bomb nicknamed Little Boy. The atom bomb exploded just a third of a mile over this river, killing an estimated 80,000 people instantly and leveling about 90% of the city. But that building, now known as the Atomic Bomb Dome, was one of the few things left standing. A testament to the tragedy of war, it now stands aligned with tributes to peace. The Peace Flame and Peace Memorial Museum, newly renovated in time for the 75th anniversary. Dimmed rooms spotlight the day of the bombing. Irradiated artifacts tell the stories of those who died in an instant. Torn clothes, a tricycle, a lunch never eaten. Photographs of burn victims hang on the walls, next to artwork by survivors. Through her own artwork, Tanaka still processes that fateful day 75 years ago.
The United States bombed your city. Do you have any criticism for America?
We were full of rage at first, but once we saw the Americans, it was clear they were just like us.
Years later, she even met Clifton Truman Daniel, grandson of President Harry Truman, who ordered the bombing.
There will be a time in the future when there are no more surviving Hiroshima victims. What do you want the world to remember?
Eliminating nuclear weapons is the path to peace, ensuring this tragedy is never repeated.
And Tanaka manages one last line in English.
Please make many friends from other countries. When you do so, you are moving the world towards peace.
A remarkable woman who survived a nuclear bombing, yet still has peace in her heart. Rami Inocencio, Hiroshima, Japan.
What great words she just said right there. Please make friends with people from other countries. Really touching.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, we got to switch gears here a little bit. We're going to take you outside to get a check of our weather. It's 85 degrees out there right now. Let's turn it over to Guy Hoggy.
Aloha on this Thursday. We have textbook trade wind weather today. That means windward and Mocha showers will be coming through from time to time with light to moderate rainfall totals. Leeward sides, not so much. And those trade winds will be running at steady speeds today, about 10 to 20 miles an hour from Kauai all the way to Maui. Lighter winds, Kona winds over in Kona, so it's going to be hot and sticky there. And the weather pattern there is going to be a little bit different because instead of windward and Mocha showers, they will get those afternoon clouds and afternoon showers. Again, that's for Kona and South Kona. Other than that, we've got textbook trade wind weather. It's going to be gorgeous. It's going to be comfortable. Fewer showers, stronger trade winds due in by Friday. Now, as far as the surf, there's not a whole lot going on. Relatively small. A small pulse is continuing up on the south shore, and east shore is still a little choppy with that wind swell at about 2 to 4 feet. And we got fishing and diving conditions for north and west shores. So again, it's going to be very, very beautiful today with lots of sunshine. The UV index is at the top end of the scale, so put on the sunblock and reapply. We'll have more details on air and online.
Now to some good news. There's this new biography out about a legendary American woman with many ties to the islands. The Silver Swan in Search of Doris Duke chronicles one of the great unexplored lives of the 20th century. I had a chance to chat with the author, Sally Bingham, via Zoom.
She absolutely adored Hawaii.
Doris Duke was a billionaire tobacco heiress and philanthropist. When there's not a pandemic, thousands of people every year tour her Diamond Head estate known as Shangri-La.
Extraordinary house that is. And she had the most wonderful time designing it and building it. And again, tried to incorporate as much of Islamic culture as she could find, particularly the tile work, and imported the artisans that she had met in that part of the world to install the tiles, to be certain that they were put in the right way. So again, a real attempt to be respectful of tradition and not just exploit it, but really be respectful and create something that to this day I think is just an eye-opener for a lot of people who go there.
But her history in Hawaii is not just tied to this lavish home.
Not so much in terms of just strict philanthropy, writing checks, but in terms of really becoming immersed in the history and the culture of Hawaii.
Even though Duke was the subject of constant scrutiny, little was known about her publicly beyond the tabloid headlines. She passed away in 1993. About 10 years later, 800 linear feet of her personal papers were made available, and Sally Bingham set out to probe her identity.
For millennials out there who might not know who Doris Duke is and how she sort of was the Lady Gaga, the Britney Spears of her day, she was the star. So I imagine in your research you sort of found that she was dealing with massive fame on the mainland, and she probably found some peace here in the islands and a little bit of serenity that she couldn't find anywhere else in the world.
You're absolutely right, and a lot of that is because for whatever reason, she wasn't pursued by the press in Hawaii. So I think Hawaii was very kind to her. I think that's one reason she spent so much time there. She didn't have to feel that she had to hide all the time.
Bingham even discovered some extremely interesting little-known connections to the islands, along with some other celebrities.
There is one wonderful scene which I wrote about towards the end of the biography, and where she had become friends with Imelda Marcos. And that's rather problematical in itself. She felt Imelda had been badly treated by the U.S. press. And so she befriended her and she invited her to Shangri-La. And so Imelda came, and then at the same time, a Hollywood figure named Pee Wee. Do you remember hearing about Pee Wee? He came along too as another house guest. And this was when Doris was living with one young woman named Shandi, so Shandi was there. And Doris decided that it would be fun to stage a wedding. So by the swimming pool, she staged a wedding between Shandi and Pee Wee, and Imelda was the maid of honor. So it's an absolutely hilarious scene.
Sally there, that's a great story, right? Can you imagine Pee Wee Herman, Imelda, and Doris Duke all together playing wedding at that pool? I don't know.
It's a gorgeous property.
Yeah, it is. Sally says the book's available pretty much anywhere. You can get it online, order it, or at your local bookstore. She also, just so you know, she's wearing sunglasses because she had some eye issues.
That makes sense.
Yeah, let's get to some news from the internet, right?
That's right. So some people are ready for this year to be over, while others are excited for all things fall. Cooler weather, pumpkin everything, and my favorite, Halloween. And speaking of Halloween, Target created these pumpkin carving kits without the carving. Now these kits come with pieces that create familiar Disney character faces. All you have to do apparently is line them up and push them into the pumpkin, and voila.
I'll have to test those out.
I know, that sounds
might
easier.
work.
Yeah, than it actually is. And you've got to have some pretty big tricks up your sleeve to enter the macaroni and cheese game. Well, Cheetos, a brand synonymous with cheese, thinks it has a winner. So they're launching 3 flavors of mac and cheese: bold and cheesy, flamin' hot and cheesy, and cheesy jalapeno.
Oh yeah. I'll try that out. Love my mac and cheese. That's going to do it for This Is Now. I hope you're hungry. You guys will be back tomorrow. Stay safe.